Hi there and welcome back to another episode of Sit and Spin with me, your host Joe Royland. It is late, I am beat, but I promised I would get the show out by the end of the week, even if it's not when I would normally like to have had it out, but that's my work schedule this week, and better a little late than never at all. But today I'm super excited to be talking about one of my all-time favorite artists in Alice Cooper and his new album Paranormal. Just came out last week. It is the 27th studio album from the shock rocker and features some special guest appearances, including the surviving original members of the Alice Cooper band, and some more we'll be getting to in a moment as we come up and talk about them. For this record, Alice said that he wanted to step outside of his comfort zone a little, and since his last few albums have been more concept records, he didn't want to do that this time out. He wanted to just kind of record a bunch of songs and pick the best ones he liked and put those on a record. And he also wanted to work with some people he'd never worked with before. We'll get to that in just a second, who some of those people are, and some that he had. And on first listen, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about this album. On the one hand, while sonically this album is superb, it was produced by longtime Alice cohort Bob Ezrin, who also contributes a little bit to the songwriting and plays some of the music on it, particularly the keyboards, and who worked with Alice most recently on his 2015 supergroup project, The Hollywood Vampires, which we reviewed back in 2015. That was the band with Joe Perry and Johnny Depp, as well as several other special guest artists. And his last studio album, 2011's Welcome to My Nightmare, which was a sequel to his classic Welcome to My Nightmare from the early 70s when he first went solo, and Ezrin had produced that as well. And along with co-producers and guitarist Tommy Denander and Tommy Henricksen, the latter of which who also plays in Alice Cooper's current 20 band, they also contribute songwriting to the album as well. So he's got that, and he's also got an ace band backing him on this album. Along with the two Tommys and Ezrin, there's also U2's Larry Mullen Jr. playing drums on the album. That was really kind of a surprise shocker when that was announced, and he is fabulous all over this album. I think Larry Mullen Jr. is one of the most underrated drummers in rock. Kind of gets overshadowed being a member of U2 sometimes, and you don't really necessarily get to appreciate how good of a drummer he is, but he gets to shine a little bit here. And along with the original Alice Cooper members, bassist Dennis Dunaway, drummer Neal Smith, guitarist Michael Bruce, who turned up on a few tracks here. We'll talk more about that in a minute. The noted session bassist Jimmy Lee Solas plays bass on this album for most of it. Dennis Dunaway plays on the tracks at other ends, and then a few other special guests that we're going to talk about shortly. And the only problem was, as great as the album sounds, the only problem I had with it, that a few key tracks aside, I didn't really find it all that memorable after the first time I listened to it. It was kind of like, I don't really remember much about what I just heard. Although I will say that in the time since I first heard it and now, several more of the album songs have grown on me, and it's very much what we would call a grower of an album. But let's go through the album track by track, shall we? The opening title track, Paranormal, which is what you're hearing right now, is a classic Cooper type love song with a twist in that it's told from the point of view of a ghost. There's some great guitar work on it from Tommy Denander. It's shifting musical passages. The intro, kind of the piece you're hearing right now, does kind of remind me of the Outlaws, Greengrass, and High Tides, though. And one of the guest artists on this is Roger Glover from Deep Purple, who plays bass on the cut, and that's probably likely because Alice is out on tour opening for Deep Purple right now. Or I shouldn't say opening, they're actually co-headlining on tour. So who knows, now that this album's out, maybe the band will play this. Maybe Roger Glover will come out and play it with them. You don't know. Stranger things have happened. The album's next track, Dead Flies, cranks in on some very Hendrixy guitar riffage. The opening, as you hear right now, it kind of reminds me of Freedom by Jimmy musically, especially the intro. Alice says it's a modern updating on Generation Landslide from the $1 Billion Babies album, which was always one of my favorite tracks by Alice, but I don't think he minds the Jimmy references at all, because they were friends. One of the first people Alice met when the original Alice Cooper band moved from their native Phoenix, Arizona, to LA was Jimi Hendrix's band. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure he loved that. Fireball, the next track after that, was a song brought in by original Alice Cooper bassist Dennis Dunaway, featuring him on bass as well. And it's a charging rocker with a solid riff, and it's about a guy who dreams he sees this giant fireball coming to destroy the earth, and then wakes up thinking it's a nightmare, but then looks out the window to see that it's actually happening. Great tune. It's got this cool distant vocal effect on Alice's vocals that almost sound like he's singing through a microphone. Probably is, that's what it might be, but I dig it. The next track, Paranoid Personality, is the album's first single, and it's easy to see why, because it's one of the strongest cuts on the album. It kind of slithers in on this pulsing bass before becoming the stomping rocker that harkens back to Go to Hell from the Goes to Hell album. Very similar in style musically, killer riff, and really sweet drum fills from Larry Mullen Jr. on it. This tune was stuck in my head all day today at work. This is the one that kept coming back to me in my head over and over again, and absolutely standout track on the album. I love it. Fallen in Love is the next track on the album. It's another crunchy riff rocker featuring Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, dropping some Texas blues licks on it in fitting fashion. And Alice name-dropping titles from some of his classic tunes in the song's lyrics, which is cool. I kind of like when artists do that. Track after that, which follows it, Dynamite Road, is a driving, nitro-fueled nod to Charlie Daniels Band's Devil Went Down to Georgia vibe, except that it's about car racing instead of fiddle playing. It's a lot more rock than the Devil Went Down to Georgia, but that's kind of the vibe I get from it. There's a nice little musical homage riff to Devil's Food, Black Widow, that drops in at about the 143 mark. I kind of picked that up. I thought that was really cool. Private Public Breakdown has a bit of an old school Alice Cooper 70s vibe to it, and plenty of cowbell to boot too. It's an okay song, not outstanding. To me, it's one of the kind of weaker songs on the album. I think it's because something about the riff kind of bores me. It's not terrible, it just doesn't do a lot for me right now. It could grow on me. 3 months from now I might think it's fantastic, but right now it's like one of the weaker tracks on the album for me. Holy Water is a song that was brought in by outside sources, and originally was kind of a rap type tune, which is why it has 7 writers on it. And usually when you see 7 writers on a track, never a good sign. But what happened was they brought it in. Alice kind of liked the tune, but basically didn't like the original way it was done. He and Bob Ezrin Cooperized it and turned it into more of a gospel sermon style revved up rocker with horns. And almost every Alice Cooper album has what I like to refer to as the Top Hat and Tails tune. Kind of an old school vaudeville vibe. Think the old Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoon with the dancing frog with the top hat and the cane. That kind of thing. It's a showman type tune. And that's it for this album. It's this track. Steve Hunter on guitar. Alice played with Alice for many years when he first started out as a solo artist. Was also featured prominently on the Welcome to My Nightmare album, and the Deacon, as he's otherwise known, comes in with some great guitar solo on that. Love it. Always love anything Steve Hunter's on. Used to play with Lou Reed as well. Rats is a garage rock raver featuring the original Alice Cooper band, Michael Bruce, Neal Smith, and Dennis Dunaway. Even though it features them, it would have fit nicely onto Alice's early 2000 albums, The Eyes of Alice Cooper or Dirty Diamonds, which kind of had that old school garage rock sound. Great tune, kind of dig that one as well. And then the album closes proper on the song Sound of A, which is a classic Cooper creepy vibe sounding song. This one again was co-written by Alice and Dennis Dunaway. And just a great way to close out the album. The Sound of A, though, what is it? Is it the sound of Alice? Not sure. It's never really spelled out, so you can kind of leave that up to what you want to decide it is. And that's the original album. The whole album, the regular version of the album as it stands, is just a 10-track record. However, there's also a deluxe edition 2-disc version of the album, or if you get the album on vinyl, it's a double LP vinyl set that features 2 bonus tracks that are both performed by the original Alice Cooper band again. They had originally gotten together, reunited several times over the year, but they got together and reunited for a live show. I think it was at a bookstore, and they released the 2-song single for that at last year's Record Store Day Black Friday release, which is really nice to have. I had that as well. That kind of spurred more of them getting back together. They also did appear with Alice on a couple tracks on Welcome to My Nightmare as well, but the bonus tracks are, the first one is Genuine American Girl, which was written by Alice with Neal Smith and Bob Ezrin, and it has kind of an old school 50s rock and roll vibe, just updated for today, and features Alice's sense of humor in that it's a song about a cross-dressing guy who likes to dress up like a girl, type of thing. The song itself actually sounds like something that could have come off of one of Alice's early 80s albums, but just that kind of vibe, because he used to write a lot of stuff like that for those times. I dig it. The next tune is You and All of Your Friends, which was written by Alice, Bob Ezrin, and Dennis Dunaway. It goes back to the sound of the early Alice Cooper days, not so much the band, but just the sound of what was going on at the time too. It's more of a glam rocky kind of song, and also again features a nice slide guitar solo from Steve Hunter. The lyrics of it, some of them can't help but remind me of what's going on in our current political climate right now. Make your own assumptions, but that's kind of what it felt like to me. And there's also on the deluxe edition a further 6 bonus tracks featuring Alice's current touring band, Chuck Garrick on bass, Tommy Henricksen, Ryan Roxy, and Nita Strauss on guitars, and Glenn Sobel on drums. It was recorded live in Columbus, Ohio at a show in May of 2016. Features the band taking on such Alice Cooper classics as No More Mr. Nice Guy, Under My Wheels, $1 Billion Babies, Feed My Frankenstein, Only Women Bleed, and School's Out. And if you get the vinyl version, they're kind of cheaped out on the vinyl version of the album, even though on the front there's a little sticker that says features 12, it includes 12 brand new songs and 6 previously unreleased Alice Cooper classics live. But what they don't tell you is that it's not on vinyl, it's on this bonus CD. Now, this is better than a digital download, but this seems to be kind of a trend with some of these albums that are coming out now with bonus tracks on it. It was the single soundtrack was the same way. And while I'm glad to have them, and they're great sounding songs, it's just a shame that they couldn't have been put out on vinyl too, especially when you're buying something specifically to listen to it in that format, that you don't get it that way. Now, I get kind of the reasons why they did it here. Usually it's always time constraints. If they wanted to put these out, they would have had to have done one of two things. They would have either had to include a bonus 10-inch EP or a bonus 12-inch album with like 3 songs per side. Because what they did do with this record on vinyl is it's double record set, but instead of being cut at the standard 33 1/3 RPM like most albums are, it's cut at 45 RPM. The reason they do that is for superior sound quality, because when you cut something at 45, the grooves are further apart, and that way the needle tracks better through them. There's also better resonance and reproduction, deeper bass sounds and stuff. That's why 45s are cut at 45 RPM, because they're going to be played continuously over and over and over and over and over again, so the sound quality holds up a bit better after repeated plays. But as such, this is great sounding on vinyl. It's just a shame that they couldn't have done that. Now, had they cut this at 33 1/3 and instead of spreading the album out over 4 sides with 3 tracks per side, they could have just put the album on 3 sides of the vinyl, and then that 4th side could have been the bonus live tracks. They didn't do that. What are you going to do? But otherwise, great sounding at 45. It's a trade-off. Better sound quality or having all the songs on vinyl. You decide which works better for you. Now, the vinyl comes in standard black, which is what I got, but also comes on a limited edition indie store red vinyl, like as a lot of records tend to do right now. Kind of had forgotten about that, and when I remembered it, I looked to see if my local record store, I looked online to see if they were getting any. Didn't look like they were getting any. I didn't have a chance to go in and try and pre-order one before the album came out, so I ended up just having to get the standard black version, which is fine. You know, I think the red would have been cool, but I'm happy either way with the black vinyl version. Now, also on vinyl, the 2 bonus tracks featuring the original Alice Cooper band, instead of being after the album proper, they actually show up before the last song of the album, The Sound of A, and it's kind of cool that they do that to maintain the integrity of having The Sound of A be the last track on the album. But the CD version actually has them on the 2nd disc with the extra bonus tracks. Now, the deluxe version of the CD also comes in a limited edition box set, which comes with a bonus t-shirt. I kind of toyed with the idea of picking that up too, but I only have so much cash these days. So it was a choice between the vinyl or the bonus with a t-shirt, and I went vinyl, man. Have to. One of these days I might get around to picking it up if there's still some around, but that is our show for this week. The new Alice Cooper album, Paranormal. Great to have Alice still turning out classic quality rock and roll. especially with so many of our idols these days passing away. Glad Alice at his age is still be able to make solid records, and this is another one of them. If you're an Alice fan, definitely go out and pick it up. I'm sporting my vintage Alice Cooper Band t-shirt today in honor of it. But Paranormal, new album from Alice Cooper, in stores now. Go out and pick it up. And that's the show for this week. We will catch you next time on Sit and Spin. We'll see you then.